just the growth that your guys showed. I asked Lincoln the same thing a little bit ago. I know the win is great, but you also want to see your guys grow and improve and do some things that you're looking for. I just need your take on whether you saw that from your guys this afternoon.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, number one is get the win. I mean, winning's hard, and in some ways we've proved how hard it is this year, right? And so that's obviously number one. We continue to talk about, we haven't played our best football game, but that's an opinion thing. That is based on what we think we can be, and ultimately what you produce, each Saturday is ultimately what you are. And so it's one thing to say, it's another thing to obviously continue to improve. And so I certainly think there's some improvements. And you watch the video, and obviously there's certain plays you get awfully frustrated by. I continue to get frustrated by, just individual plays and kind of the lack of tackle attempt, if that makes sense, as opposed to a true missed tackle where you're attempting to bring a guy to the ground and you fail to do so, and defensive football is hard, but it's a whole lot harder if you don't attempt to tackle. And so there's just a couple examples of that, and they create explosive plays, and we got to give more credit to our opponent in terms of their ability to run through those things. Certainly there's other issues, but those stand out, and that's something that's got to get corrected.
Let's go to John Hoover. I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, great. So I'm wondering, Alex, if along those lines of growth and maturity, is maybe oversimplifying things to suggest that this team is growing up from one possession to the next. In other words, 17-0 out there real quick again, and all of a sudden you guys are a replay review away from it being 17-14. And instead of kind of wilting in that moment, you guys kind of took momentum, gained some new momentum, and took off and separated. Is that signs of growth right there just within the game itself?
Well, I think it is, and I think also, it's a great point. Every possession kind of has a life of its own, and so, it's important that we attack it in that way. And the scoreboard, how it reads at that particular moment, should not have any impact on what that drive happens to be for us. And there's video evidence over the first several weeks that it has a tendency to have an impact on how we play, and so that's something that obviously that we're continuing to work to get corrected. And I also would say this, that not every scoring drive, obviously you never want to score any points or limit as much as you can, but not every scoring drive to me is weighted the same way. Is it a battle to the very end? So I think about a 4th and 1, opportunity today in the red zone, and I'm ticked off that we kind of had a bust there in terms of gap integrity, which has to get corrected. But in the same token, it's like you grind that one out, and then there's other possessions where obviously that's not the case. But I think it's incredibly important that we attack it that way in terms of how we approach it with our guys. 7 points on the board, and then making sure also that you don't create a scenario where here we go again. We've been here before, and it's like, okay, well, wait a second. Are we waiting for the other shoe to drop? And obviously that's a responsibility on us as coaches to, make sure that doesn't take place. And so I think there's some growth. I absolutely do, just as you approach specifically the second half. But obviously, more. There's a lot more out there for us.
Compared to last year, you're able to put together good defensive performance today and play a lot of reserves, you're playing a lot of backups. I know COVID kind of hit you guys with being freshmen and things, but how satisfied are you right now that you're having the ability to play backups and get good production?
Well, I think it's been critical, and I think some of it is evidenced by the first couple games. I remember having the conversation at some point with you all in terms of what the fatigue level is, and I think that has contributed. And I think also it's something that there's a level of play that's expected over 60 minutes is very difficult to do at any position at our level, and so to rotate guys in as much as anything, it may not be a physical break as much as just a mental break, to have a couple snaps on the sideline to kind of kind of redial, refocus before going back in there is critical. Now again, those individuals that come in the game, you got to perform at a certain level. And that's something obviously that we continue to evaluate. And then also the messages, to those individuals that, you quote unquote are number one in our defense is saying, your mindset's got to be performing at a level that Coach Grinch would never take you out of the game. So there's something for both levels on this thing. So if you're a 2, you're saying you're fighting every single day in practice to perform at a level that say we're going to put you in a game, and you're fighting for one more rotation, one more series, one more, whatever it is. And then those ones, the message to them is, you're fighting to make sure that backup doesn't see the field, and that's that level of competition that the elite defenses and league programs have. And so that's something we're trying to create, and obviously we're still in the infant stages of it, but it's been good to rotate more guys these last couple of weeks.
Brandon Drum.
Yeah, Alex, can you talk about the defensive line? It just seems like they've really picked up their play over the last couple of weeks, and just how much of that is not just Isaiah Thomas, his overall growth, but just Ellison and Perion Winfrey and seeing the game slow down for them?
Yeah, just very disruptive up front. And you see the impact specifically in the run game, but also obviously in the pass game. It makes it very difficult for offenses, have the confidence level that we're going to hand that thing off into this group of guys, right? And so that's been a positive. You have a chance, and I'm not claiming that we're there yet by any stretch, but to try to make a team one-dimensional, that is a goal. They obviously got to hold up in the pass game as well. And so those individuals you mentioned up front are just as involved in that respect. But been pleased. I mean, you talk about rotation. That's a group that's kind of been, rotating here over the last few weeks, and really seeing, quality played by. You say by committee, and sometimes that sounds like a negative, but it's one of those things when we talk about rotations every Thursday, it's okay, we're going to rotate like we did last week, yes. And you know what that means. You're talking about five guys in the interior. You're talking about, 5 to 6 guys on the edges. And so that's something that's got to continue, and you'd like to have that at every spot. But that's been a real positive for us and something that's got to continue.
Yeah, Alex, I asked Lincoln kind of this too. Is how much confidence will it give these guys that you guys kind of put a complete game together for the first time this season, outside of the Missouri State game, obviously. Yeah. Just moving forward in their confidence level.
Well, I think it has to, and again, I'll say it's hard to win football games. It is, and I'll also say we made it look awfully hard. Through X number of weeks this year. And so, but there's lessons there, and every team is different. You like to say, maybe we can learn from, again, showing clips of NFL football and say we're going to learn the lesson in terms of finishing games. Well, sometimes you have to go through it yourself. You like to think you only got to go through it once, and that obviously has not been the case for us. But at the same token, again, every team's different, from a maturity standpoint. And, the biggest thing is obviously as coaches, you point the finger at yourself and say, where am I missing? In an attempt to raise the standard, I'll give you an example. In an attempt to raise the standard of the defense at Oklahoma, am I creating too much of an issue that, we're maybe a little bit in a position where one play might break us, or one drive might break us? Am I creating, like I mentioned earlier, here we go again mentality in my guys? And so that's something I got to look at. When you identify a problem, every single one of us on this can identify the problem. The key is, okay, how do we fix it? And so I think you saw signs of it today. I do. I think the touchdowns towards at the end, you're not convincing the guys that that's a frustrating thing to give up 7 points in the fourth quarter. But also understand that, the bulk of the second half, guys performed at a fairly high level. And so always a work in progress, but it'd be inappropriate to say that you didn't see progress today.
Last question, James Hale.
Alex, you won the line of scrimmage today. That had to be, really a plus for you in your play calling and things like that. John Michael Terry, a lot of different players made plays up front, but you won the line of scrimmage, and that's always a positive, isn't it?
Well, it is, and it's very difficult to have any success if you don't. And you kind of have a vision in your head every week in terms of what that might look like based on video study and those things. But obviously you got to ultimately perform on Saturday game day. And so no, that's something that we continue to always talk about. We talk about how physical our opponent. If you're equal from a physical standpoint, you got a shot. Obviously, if you're minus from a physical standpoint, it's going to go the other way. And so, no, again, talk about trying to make teams one-dimensional, which you got to be smart in that way because you want to turn this into a 7-on-7 game. But again, that physical play that you mentioned is not just in the run game, but obviously it's included in the pass game, and so that's something obviously we'd like to continue.